Today is Sunday, 14 December 2025. Now I'm going to give you some intel that I've received over the past few days here. Now this is not 100% confirmed. You know, it is a possibility that this could be disinfo, but the sources for this information are freaking out over some of the stuff that they have learned. Now, to give you a little bit of background on this, we do know in the militia and patriot community that our communications are monitored, not just by the Department of Justice, but it's also monitored by leftists who are trying to be, you know, their new version of the KGB. They're trying to spy on who they consider to be Nazis. Well, we also spy on them. We have people that have infiltrated their chat boards, their Discord servers, and even their groups that attend their meetings. Now, some of these members over the past few days have been flipping out because of information that they have learned over the past few weeks here since their last reports. And what they have learned and what they informed us of is that groups such as the Socialist Rifle Association, Stonewall Underground, John Brown Gun Club, and other trans gun groups who identify, they say that they're just, they teach the trans community about self-defense. They're not a military organization or a militia organization or revolutionary organization. The information coming from these different groups by these sources indicate that there is active planning going on right now to go operational. The information that the sources have reported from different groups, different organizations, is that there is coordination going on at the upper echelons of these groups, including with Antifa cells, because there's a lot of crossover in all these groups. There's planning going on that in the near future here, they are going to go active. And when they go active, they are going to basically start a terrorist campaign within the United States. The specific description that we were given is they're going to create the Troubles in the United States. The Troubles was the Irish Civil War, basically from the 1960s to the late 1990s. And during this period in Ireland, you had car bombings, you had assassinations, you had snipings, you had ambushes, you had fire bombings, just across the board terrorism and rioting going on. And reportedly, these different groups, especially in the trans groups, the John Brown Gun Club groups, there is a lot of talk of they are planning to go active and they're going to start doing terrorist acts. The specific acts that we were notified of: first off, there is going to be attacks on power substations. They're looking back to what happened a few years ago where someone was sniping at transformers and that type of stuff in the Pacific Northwest and in the Southeast United States. They want to do that. There's also discussions, active planning of they're going to break into military facilities, particularly National Guard armories, in an attempt to steal small arms, rifles, light machine guns, pistols, and whatever else they can get a hold of, communications equipment, night vision, scopes, TA-50, whatever they can get a hold of, out of them. They want military-grade weaponry. And reportedly, some of these groups, especially the trans groups, are talking to members of the National Guard, members of the Air Force, because there was one particular Air Force base that was specifically cited that was going to be targeted because of a military member in that group is assigned to that base. And they are discussing with these military members how to get into the arms rooms to steal military weapons. And where's the night vision located, all that type of stuff. They're actively planning on how to do this. They're also discussing mass shootings and other mass casualties events involving IEDs, improvised explosive devices. Some of the assassinations that are being planned, that are being discussed, include political figures, people that are in Congress, people that are in state government, people in local governments. They're also discussing attacking alternative media people. They have specific lists of specific people that have been named that they are currently getting intel on so that these people can be assassinated. Reportedly, they're also planning to hit known people within the patriot and militia communities. I did talk to one of the people who actually was named. Bucky, who runs the channel Glow So Bright, who has done videos about these groups, discussing their size, their weapons, their tactics and that stuff that they're currently working on. He apparently is one of them that is specifically named by at least one of these groups. And I talked to him about that here yesterday. So he's aware of it. He has already talked to law enforcement, and I don't want to go into too much on it. What are some of the... Those were the main attacks, main tactics that were being discussed from the different sources that were feeding us this intel over the past few days here since about midweek last week. Now, we did talk with, or, chatted with, because it wasn't an in-person meeting. We did chat with these people, and the intel that they gathered, which includes recordings of group conversations on Discord. It includes screenshots and copied messages out of chat rooms and chat boards and that type of stuff. That information, when we talk to our infiltrators in these groups, all of that information has been handed off to the FBI. It has also been handed off to the appropriate security elements within the U.S. military. So if it's a particular National Guard armory in a particular state, that the National Guard in that state was notified. That particular Air Force base that has been mentioned, that we were sent information on that is being targeted, information was forwarded to the security services on that base, so they are also aware of it. We have also notified law enforcement, concerning some of these assassination attempts and stuff. Now, do we expect that the FBI and the different security services and law enforcement will act on the intel that they're getting? We doubt it. Because, quite frankly, they don't trust us, we don't trust them. But we're hoping they at least actually look at it, and when they confirm it, they start doing their damn job. They start going after these groups that are planning terrorism on U.S. soil. So, I'm putting this information out there so that you are aware of this is going on right now. These groups are actively planning a terrorism campaign to begin in the United States soon. We do not have a window on this. We do not know, is this something that's going to happen in the next 30 days, or is this something that's going to happen sometime in the next 6 months? All we know is there is planning going on. They are well into the planning, the information gathering stage, especially for the assassinations. So, what can you do? First off, do not go out and attack these groups right now. What is our recommendation from within the Patriot community, within the militia community, is get as much intel as you can on these groups in your area. In particular, organizations such as the John Brown Gun Club, the Socialist Rifle Association, Antifa, and Stonewall Underground. There are other groups that fall into these categories that are socialist revolutionary organizations, but they call themselves socialist social organizations or socialist gun clubs, trans gun clubs. There's a lot of that in there. It looks like a lot of the worst, most heinous type events that are being planned, that planning is primarily coming from the trans groups, because they look at anyone who isn't trans as being their enemy, and they want you dead. So they're the ones that are primarily doing the worst of the planning for like mass casualty events. You need to find out what groups are in your area, who is in charge of those individual groups, how many members are in those groups, what are their general capabilities, what type of training do they do. If you understand their tactics, you understand how they're going to operate. Get an idea on their equipment. It doesn't have to be super specific. You don't need to know that, Rainbow Butt Monkey in this group has a Glock 19 Gen 5. Black Prince, Gay Butt Monkey, he has a Glock 19 Gen 2. And Sabrina the Teenage Bitch has a Glock 19 Gen 100. All you would need to know is this group is equipped with 9mm pistols, primarily Glock 19 variants. For rifles, what type of rifles? Generally, you don't need to know that this member has a Daniel Defense AR-15. This member has a PSA AR-15. This member over here has a Colt law enforcement version AR-15. All you would need to know is the group is equipped with primarily AR-15 pattern rifles chambered in 5.56 millimeter, or if it doesn't matter if it's 223 or 5.56, then all you need to know is they're equipped with primarily AR-15 patterned rifles. The reason you would need to know is if the 5.56 is the standard, because that tells you what type of ammunition it can handle and the spread of ammunition. Would they be able to fire military grade or law enforcement grade armor piercing type rounds, like your M855A1s? Or are they limited to only 223 Remington, which is target shooting and hunting loads? So they're not going to have armor piercing capabilities. If they have shotguns, what type of gauge is it? Is it 12 gauge? Is it 20 gauge? It doesn't matter. Just a general idea on that equipment. You also need to get an idea on what type of communications do they use. Are they using bow fangs? Are they using cell phones? What do they have planned for? Because that allows you to plan for how to monitor their communications. You also need to get an idea on, do they have night vision? What type of night vision? Are we talking night vision that, just the goggles? Or do they have night vision scopes? You're trying to find out as much as you can on their combat capabilities. You want to know the size of the group. Generally, how well equipped are they? If they have 2 members that are fully equipped and the other, say, 12 members of the group are just barely equipped, that tells you on how operational they are and what gives you an idea of what they need to do to get fully operational, which you can also put into your planning on how to prevent that, such as trying to prevent them from breaking into a nearby National Guard armory to fill in those gaps on equipment. You also need to try to find out who supports them, as in who gives them funding. Do they just fund themselves from donations from their members, or do they have an outside source? If they have an outside source, what type of outside source is this? Is this from individual donations from people with deep pockets, or are we talking organizational support? Are they getting money from a larger group, a larger organization? Now, one thing we are seeing, and talking with Bucky over at Glow So Bright, this has been confirmed in the media somewhat. Some of these groups are talking about they are receiving support from the People's Liberation Army out of China. One group has hinted at that they've received small arms, but that has not been confirmed. This could just be someone talking shit, trying to brag, saying that, well, they support us, so we're going to get this, but they're actually not. Talking with Bucky, he says the Chinese government has mentioned specific trans groups and socialist groups in the United States that they do associate with, that they do support. It's not confirmed that they are sending small arms and munitions to these groups, at least at this time. There is also talk of intel services out of Cuba. And talking to Bucky, this has been confirmed in international media. There are articles about the Cuban government talking about, in articles, released articles that are public, the Cuban government talking about their intel services working with and training groups in the United States within the trans community. The specifics on that training is unknown. We don't know, is this lethal training or is this agitation training? Is this sabotage training? We don't have specifics on that. So that's everything that I have down here and that I remember from the conversations and the chats over the past few days. You need to find out what groups are in your area, who's in it, how many people are in it, what's their general capabilities, what type of training do they do. That'll tell you the types of operations that they're planning on doing, which assists you in planning on how to stop those operations or mitigate the damage those operations can do. Now, as more information comes into our hands from our infiltrators inside these groups, it will get passed on within the community to the groups that we know and trust across the country who are within the general areas where some of these ops are being planned for. And this information will also be passed on further, once again, to the appropriate security force within the military or the particular law enforcement or Department of Justice elements. So time will tell if they will follow through with these plans. But right now, they are planning to begin terrorist operations sometime in the near future. We do not know how far into the planning they are. If they're at the finalization stage and they're ready to jump off and begin the operation, or are they still only in the planning stage for future operations, where they're coming up with ideas and checking feasibilities. So we don't have the specifics on that because our infiltrators, at least the ones I will tell you about, are not at a leadership level. These are member levels, and they're not part of the highest levels of planning. At least that's all I'm going to tell you for right now. So there you go. Take this info, plan accordingly, maintain situational awareness at all times. When this stuff kicks off, we expect that it's going to be across the country at one time. It's not going to be one attack here on this day and then another attack a week later and another attack 3 weeks after that. It looks like they're going to do or are trying to coordinate for a mass event to kick it off, and that's going to be the signal to all the little socialist groups that now's the time, rise up and fight against the current administration. So there you go. Plan accordingly, maintain situational awareness, and you better be finalizing your preparations right now. Now, for all my engineer brothers across the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.